Hi, I'm Graeme, Chief Exec of SCMA. Once again, a lot has happened during this last week. We know that many of you who are open are continuing to work a large excess of hours, and you don't have the time just now to read lots of information coming through. So this is just a short video, end of week update from me about some really important developments which you should be aware of. Most notably, the confirmation of an additional £1 million of financial support for childminding, which has come through as a result of sustained effort over the last 2 months on your behalf. January has already been a long month for all of us, with many of us coping with the challenge of homeschooling and balancing this with work. So as we approach the weekend, it's nice to be able to report some positive news for a change, and I'll tell you as much as I'm able to about this funding. In addition, I'll provide a very brief update about the new action plan on childminding, what this actually means, and also an update on vaccination. Firstly, and as you'll probably be aware, the current COVID restrictions have been extended until at least mid-February, with a review date of the 2nd of February. There are no changes for childcare. The majority of childminding settings can remain open for all families, with only those larger settings currently caring for 12 or more children required to reduce their service to key workers and vulnerable children, in line with nurseries and other larger settings. Blended placements can also continue and are supported by the guidance with appropriate risk assessments in place. The Scottish Government has also confirmed that the current restrictions are aimed at reducing transmission of the virus in the wider community, and that on the basis of scientific evidence and public health advice, childcare settings are considered low-risk environments. A link to a video message about this from Professor Jason Leach can be accessed beneath my video update today. So moving on to the most important development for many of you, financial support. The Deputy First Minister, John Swinney, confirmed yesterday that an additional £1 million in financial support is to be made available to childminders, with grants of up to £1,000 available. He confirmed that this is aimed at supporting business sustainability, which we know is the biggest concern that many of you have at this time. Our recent survey found that 45% of childminders did not believe their businesses would still be viable in between 3 and 6 months' time without either an increase in business or financial support. The survey also found that 30% of childminders had experienced a very significant reduction in the number of children in their settings. On top of the increased operating costs, which many of you experienced, it's becoming harder for some childminding businesses to sustain their business. We recognise it will not be possible to sustain this for much longer for some of you at current levels. In parallel, many of you have lost families due to early restrictions on blended care. You might be experiencing a continued reduction in demand for both preschool and out-of-school childcare due to parents continuing to be required to work from home and due to the extension of furlough. Again, we recognise that it's becoming harder to sustain as time goes on. So this is why SCMA has put continued effort over a period of months into influencing both additional financial support for childminding to increase your business sustainability, and also into informing a new action plan on childminding. And when it became clear that further restrictions were expected and that more funding may be available, we made a further case to the Scottish Government for financial support before Christmas. This followed through on a ministerial commitment that was made to SCMA in the autumn to look again at financial support for childminding if further money was identified. While about 83% of childminders in Scotland are members of SCMA, during COVID we've found that many more childminders have been following us for updates and looking for support. As such, we've been working to support both members and the wider childminding workforce when influencing funding. So on financial support, the Deputy First Minister confirmed that the £1 million is a headline announcement with the detail to develop shortly about who is eligible and how to apply. He also confirmed that SCMA will be involved in discussing this detail, and this is already underway. At this time, we can't say anything more other than to reassure you that there's a shared desire to move this forward as quickly as possible, and the information will be shared at that time. The financial support is of a targeted nature. It's aimed at supporting those in greatest need and at greatest risk of their businesses becoming unsustainable. In simple terms, we want as many settings still to be here as possible when we come out of COVID, and to be able to enable parents to work and to support national and local economic recovery. We very much welcome the additional £1 million and believe it could provide a vital contribution to those businesses at greatest risk. Clearly, with a workforce of around 4,300 childminders in Scotland, the limited nature of the funding will mean it won't reach all childminders, but it is very welcome support for those businesses in most need, particularly when we consider the unprecedented demand from every sector of life for financial support, which arose as a result of the whole of mainland Scotland being plunged into level 4 on Boxing Day. We also believe the Scottish Government has been listening to the many childminders who've contacted ministers and MSPs on the need for financial support. As I said, further information will be released as soon as it is available, so please continue to follow our feeds for updates. Now, to put this in a little wider context, SCMA advised the Scottish Government last summer that the issues facing childminding were becoming so serious that a dedicated action plan on childminding was required, with meaningful actions which make a difference to childminders, in addition to the more general policy actions for all childcare providers. Before COVID, a number of inequalities had arisen between childminders and other providers during ELC expansion. Our workforce has decreased by over 18%, with many childminders finding it hard to compete with local authority nursery expansion to support ELC. During COVID, the gap has widened and it required urgent action. So after we secured a commitment from the Scottish Government to develop an action plan on childminding, we've been working extensively over the last 2 months to influence and inform this. We recognise you're all busy practitioners, you don't have the time to read lengthy 30 or 40 page documents. And to be honest, I also recognise that the term action plan in itself, it can sound dry, and there's always a risk that documents of this nature could just sit on a shelf. However, we were determined this would be different, and we're committed to working with the Scottish Government to ensure that these actions are delivered. So what's in it, and what difference will it make? The plan contains a series of short, medium and long-term commitments. As we've been advising over the last few months, the important thing for the action plan in the short term is additional financial support to increase the viability and sustainability of childminding businesses. This is where the additional funding announced yesterday comes in. Once businesses are more stable, a series of medium and longer term actions can then be launched to support the recovery of the childminding workforce. In addition, there's greater recognition of the need to maintain blended placements. As you'll be aware, SCMA has put significant effort into ensuring that restrictions on blended care were eased and that blended placements can still take place as long as it's safe to do so. There are important commitments to research which will inform future policy actions to strengthen the childminding workforce and to promote the benefits of childmind to more parents. Now, this is really important, as independent research and evidence can add weight to informing policy decisions about where to allocate and prioritise future funding. There are also actions to make it easier for childminders to get involved in delivering funded hours and to enable more childminders to support vulnerable families and to diversify your businesses. We're also pleased that the Scottish Government has committed to updating this plan with new actions as we progress through recovery. Finally, vaccination. Members will be aware that we've been advocating over the last couple of months for all childminders and other childcare staff and teachers to be prioritised for the COVID vaccine. Again, we believe the Scottish Government has been listening, and at the beginning of the year, the First Minister confirmed that the Scottish Government was considering extending the vaccine from health and social care staff to also include childcare staff and teachers. But in the meantime, there's been a really positive development. Fife Council approached SCMA last week to ask us to extend an invitation to community childminders in Fife to receive the vaccine. To explain a little bit more, we have community childminding services in different parts of the country where councils have contracted with SCMA to deliver these specialised services. Now, these are supported interventions where specially trained childminders deliver family support to vulnerable families who may be just one step away from crisis. NHS Fife and Fife Council had recognised that our community childminding service is an essential social care service equivalent to that delivered by their own or private social care staff. As a result, they decided to include the community childminders in their vaccine allocation for third sector social care providers. To us, this was really positive, and we arranged contact so that these community childminders can receive the vaccine. But we also wrote to NHS Fife requesting that this invitation is extended to all childminders in Fife, given that all childminders are following the same guidance and you're operating in broadly similar environments. NHS Fife is unable to extend this to all childminders at this time, as they have to follow advice from the UK Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation and also from the Scottish Government. So we've taken this up again with the Scottish Government, and we're continuing to urge that all childminders in Scotland are prioritised to receive the vaccine. Given your leading role in supporting the national response and continuing to operate while many sectors are closed, we believe this is only appropriate. Now that's enough from me for today. I appreciate there's less separation between work and weekends for many of us at the moment, but I hope that you managed to get some downtime this weekend. Stay well.